What's up, everyone? It's your man, the Mega Power TV. And I can't start a video without ever clearing my throat. But I'm coming to you on a February the 3rd. And a lot of people had been asking me and messaging me asking to talk about this. They wanted to get my thoughts. As here, I'm on my priest. Just hit 70 recently. We're flying through some areas today. They wanted to get my thoughts on the big GDKP news and my thoughts on it. And what were my thoughts on GDKPs? And this is in regard to Classic, Season of Discovery, probably Wrath of the Lich King, all that stuff as well combined. And when I think about it, I wanted to go back and kind of talk a little bit about my World of Warcraft Classic experience. And I'll do a video on Classic to talk about it more in depth. But when I really think about Classic, I actually think it was a disappointment. And this is to me, and a lot of people that comment on my videos don't quite seem to ever understand what someone's personal opinion is versus their own opinion. Because they'll tell you you're wrong, and when it's your own opinion, you can't actually be wrong. It's just your opinion. Especially when we're not talking about, like there's no real right or wrong answer, I guess is what I'm getting at. And so it's just always funny to see. Or people complaining about my UI without realizing that I'm completely zoomed in just for the sake of the video. And I play on a 1440p ultra wide. And so it would look weird in its format when I do these. But it's always fun to see the comments anyways. But anyways, I think Classic was a disappointment to me. And what I mean by that was simply that it should have been more fun than it was. And everybody found ways to just suck the fun out of the game. I'm going to go get this flight path. And what I mean was, to start with, Classic, in my opinion, was supposed to be about fun. It was a game that, we've all beaten before to some degree. My guild made it into Naxxramas back in the day, which was a big deal for us. And we were able to take down like 3 bosses in Naxxramas. We had cleared AQ40. It was weird. We took down the Twin Emperors, but I don't believe we actually ever did Cthulhu. By the time we got to the Twin Emperors, Naxxramas was out, and so we switched to that, but we finished up the Twin Emps. And then, for whatever reason, we did not finish Cthulhu. And so then we went to Naxxramas. And then, as you can see, here's the lovely sword to set the stage for our next awful expansion in Dragonflight. But people found the ways to suck the fun out of World of Warcraft Classic. And the first one was with like parsing and world buffs kind of combined. And that really took any of the fun out of it, because people were acting like this was an esport that, I was in the 99th percentile on Veil or Patchwork, or look at how good I did on Ragnaros. And it wasn't that impressive, and it wasn't any fun. And all the items and everything were predetermined, who was going to get what and all this stuff. And so it sucked the life out of it. The second way in which the Classic, and you've seen it in World of Warcraft Classic and Burning Crusade and Wrath of the Lich King, and I assume Season of Discovery. I haven't finished leveling in Season of Discovery because I started it and was like, it's just not going to be for me. Because to me, it feels like turning Season of Discovery is like turning Classic into retail, which I would argue people already did with the way they were doing loot and groups and all this different stuff and parses. But to me, the GDKP system was the other part that is this where Cenarian Hold used to be? Ruined the part of Classic for me because, man, it just took all the other fun out of it. If you were a person that didn't want to do like these quote unquote like hardcore raids where we're getting all the world buffs, normally you would go find another group. Now those groups still existed, like pickup groups or organized groups, or it became really hard to find even just like quote unquote casual guilds, meaning like, hey, we're going to clear these bosses, but we're not going to take it super seriously because, well, Ragnaros has been killed 100,000 times by every guild on the planet. So let's not worry about our rogues and everyone else who's not in the 98th percentile further parsing. And those groups became few and far between because people that were not going to play like that ended up not playing Classic because the community just sucks the life out of it. And that's something, unfortunately, that has happened in general in World of Warcraft. And I see it in my comments on these threads. And you just sort of see the negative, sometimes not negative, but just gross comments that people make. And it's like, man, if you were a new player or an adult player coming back that's looking at these other adults behaving in this manner, you're going to not want to participate in this kind of stuff yourself. And I do think people forget about that kind of stuff. But anyways, the GDKP, wow, when you try to say that fast, man, it does not work. That system, essentially you would go into the raid and, people would bid on items. And then at the end of the raid, gold gets, dispersed evenly amongst the raiders. And again, it's not a bad system when you think about it of like, oh, hey, I'm really trying to get this one item only out of Ragnaros. Maybe you want, what's the belt, right? The warrior belt. And you've run it over and over again, and your guild doesn't want to do it anymore. So then you go with this route where you're like, well, I'm gonna pay 1,000, 2,000, 5,000 gold for it. Or, Maladath, you really want Maladath, and you'll pay 10,000 gold for it. Something like that. And then it gets split up to the people who are raiding. You're like, oh, that's pretty cool, right? There's a lot of problems that creates, though. In a vacuum, that system sounds great. And that's when you don't have people who are selling gold, and you don't have bots or people that are farming gold, and you don't have people that know every single like min-maxed way to make gold, and so that the economy is completely inflated. And the people that trickles down to and hurts are the people who aren't buying gold. So if you're just playing the game like you should be playing the game, it hurts you, because if you go into these item runs, you're paying prices against people who have been in an economy buying gold. And you're looking at it like your 1,000 gold that you have is worth less than the other person's 1,000 gold, because they didn't have to put any time into it. And that really just hurts the system in a whole. The other part it does too is it just create, and then you're assuming that these groups are running on a fair level too, that, the raid leader hasn't, specifically stacked the group in a certain way, or we've got all these whales coming in, versus sellers or guys who are there to collect the gold only, but then they bid on items to bid up stuff, because to them this is their way to make more gold so that they can try to either sell gold to people for real money or buy flasks or whatever the case may be. And so right off the bat, you see all these negative aspects going into it, just from that perspective. And then it sort of just hurts the community, because then people are saying like, well, if I'm not making gold doing these runs, like, why should I lock out my character for a pickup group, which I might have to roll against 3 people, And, I'm doing more damage than them. Shouldn't I get special treatment and stuff like that? And it really kind of takes out of the, this isn't a workplace environment. Like when you go to do a raid,
I am out of range.
you shouldn't treat this as your job, meaning like that someone else should be held to the same level as expectation as you. Because then you're valuing your time means more than their time because they're not quote unquote performing in a manner of which I'm performing. And so, that sort of thought process kind of seeps its way into the game. And it sort of infects all the raiders and all the players when really like it should just be a communal experience, right? Of like, hey, we're trying to get through this raid. And I get it, it becomes inefficient and wiping on bosses isn't fun. I don't like to do it either, which is why I do looking for raid. And even then we still wipe an LFR, which is always like, oh, lovely. Let's see if we get anything good here. Oh, could use that, I think, on my paladin. I don't know if I actually have the breastplate on my paladin. This was always one of my favorite raids back in the day. I would love, like, if the War Within could have more of this style of just art style and raiding, that would be a fun expansion. So I'm hoping we get some more of that. But back to my thoughts on the gold selling runs. And so you're kind of left with the situation of it kind of creates a weird community experience. So you've already got the hardcore raid scene, which tries to exclude as many people as possible, pushing parses and all this stuff. And then you end up with these other raids where it's really to try to support the hardcore scene, really, and then take advantage of people who are buying and selling gold. And it really ruins the community. And then it kind of, in short, messes with the main raid scene because now they're valuing flasks and other things at a higher level because the prices push up. And it's bad for the game. And my thoughts are like that gold selling runs should have never been allowed. They've always should have been obliterated. It's been bad for the community. It's been bad for the game. And I don't actually think that it's ever been good. It has a good idea how it works, but it only ends up negatively impacting the game. And the only situation where I could see where it worked is if like you do like a guild run and it's like a guild alt run and everyone buying it into it, like it gets put into some fund for the guild to use, right, for things. And even then, I'm not so sure people would end up being mad. There's always a drawback anyways, right? Someone always complains about something. But I think that's really the most effective way to run it. It'll be interesting to see what the community does in a response to no longer doing the gold selling for that. I imagine that the runs will still happen. People will still sort of manage it in Discord some way. And you'll either have to trade a bunch of materials before the game or before the run. And there'll be some way to associate value with it that someone will figure out to some agreeable way. The biggest thing that they should really do in the whole situation is just eliminate gold buying and gold selling. I really don't understand it because all it would take is some sort of query tool to query the log system to see these gold transfers. And you could immediately ban those accounts or suspend the accounts or delete the gold and delete the bots. And so it's really Blizzard's fault in the end that all of this has happened. And this is a step to correct it, but it's not the step to correct it. The other step you can do on an extreme end is to not allow trading. But again, that that doesn't work. The other thing that you can do is what retail does. Instead of having the master loot system, everyone just has their own personal loot system. And I know there's kind of trading that happens in that a little bit, but I really actually don't mind the personal loot system in the game. No, I actually do prefer the classic style of, like, these items drop from the boss, so it's kind of fun to go farm those bosses until you get the item. Some people might agree or disagree. I'm sure y'all hear about it in the comments, but to kind of sum it all up, I'm glad that the gold runs are gone. I hope they never come back, and I hope these kind of players that are interested in these runs just kind of go away. Classic is supposed to be fun. It's not supposed to be Excel spreadsheets and jobs and all this kind of stuff. And so I had way much more fun on private servers or old school vanilla than I ever did in Classic. And I hope it goes away. But really what I hope for is that Blizzard, Activision, Microsoft bans the bots and starts banning the gold sellers and traders instead. And they can try to find a way to work around it, right? But that's just the real answer. But in a nutshell, I'm glad that they're going away, and I hope that they never come back. So let me know what you guys think. Smash that sub button for me. Oh man, I'll probably do a live stream later today so you guys can make fun of how bad I am at healing and PvP. It is amazing how bad I am. So yeah, check me out on Twitch, Megapower TV, same as YouTube and Facebook. I appreciate your time, guys, and we'll see you next time.